Now, let's say you want to go out and you want to build a SaaS app. You've been thinking about this for a while, maybe weeks, months, or even years. You know exactly what kind of app you want to build. You know exactly what the app is going to do. Maybe this is going to be a brand new app that nobody has done before, or maybe this is going to be a similar app that's already in the market, but still something is holding you back. Perhaps it's the fact that you feel overwhelmed because this app that you want to build has a lot of features, has a lot of things, has a lot of little things that you want to include, and you're not sure if you're actually going to be able to do all that. Because the fact of the matter, building apps is difficult. Building sophisticated, complex apps is even more difficult. But still, you need to go out and you need to build apps. You need to gain that valuable experience that's going to be instrumental and useful for the next app. And so one of the things that worked for me is going out and building a micro SaaS. So instead of building all-inclusive app that does everything and anything, a lot of times it's a lot better to go out and to build a simple app that does one or two things really, really well. And there are three reasons that you may want to go out and you want to build a micro SaaS. Number one, you want to build a standalone app that does one or two things really, really well that you're going to use in specific purposes. Maybe you're going to monetize this app, maybe you're going to sell it, maybe you're going to do something else with it. The second reason is that you want to build this app. It's going to be standalone initially, but later on, you want to integrate it, connect it, and have it become part of something bigger. So instead of building this huge app right now, you can build something smaller and then work on it incrementally. And the third reason is practice. Perhaps you're not interested in launching anything, you're not interested in monetizing your app, but you're interested in practicing. You're interested in building something that works, something that does what you want it to do. And so in today's video, we're going to be talking about different micro SaaS apps that you can build. We're going to look at some ideas. We're going to look at a very, very unique method of building them that's going to save you a lot of time, a lot of hassle, and even better, you don't need to write any code at all. And then later in the video, I'm going to show you some of the prototypes for these ideas so that you can see how they function and also how you can go out and build them yourself. Now, as always, anything that I talk about in this video, all the apps, all the information, all the resources is going to be available directly from my Patreon page, which you will be able to find in the description below. Now, there are lots of ways of actually building the logic to your app. You can use a tool such as FlutterFlow, you can use another tool, or you can actually build the logic using another method and combine it with a tool such as FlutterFlow, which is what we're going to be doing today. So if you head to extensions.dev/extensions, you're going to be at this extensions marketplace by Firebase. And extensions is something that I've already talked about in one of the previous videos, but a lot of people had questions. They wanted me to go more in depth, and that is what I plan on doing today. And so if you come in here, you have a lot of interesting ideas, right? And what are these extensions? Well, they're nothing more than pre-built code that you can easily integrate into some of the other tools that I'm going to show you in a second. But first, let's talk about these extensions. There's a lot of interesting things that you can build immediately without actually writing code, which is what this channel is all about. So things like searching with Algolia, searching with Elastic App Search, deleting user data. But what really got me interested is things like shorten URLs, resizing images, also image processing, as well as things like sending messages with Twilio. And for these specific extensions, I can immediately see use cases. And I'm sure if you're building an app that needs to communicate with users, maybe send an email or send a message, or do something of that sort, you can also immediately see some of the use cases here. Now, before we go further, I want to explain to you exactly how these extensions work and what makes them so powerful and so useful. Now, if you look at this diagram right here, we have your typical app diagram, and this is the case with no-code builders such as FlutterFlow and others. They all pretty much work the same. We have the UI, we have widgets. So in FlutterFlow's case, you have things like custom widgets, you have built-in widgets, which are part of the UI. We have logic, which kind of straddles in the middle. And then we have the database, which is kind of like the source of truth for the data. And a lot of times we use FireStoreDB, which is a really, really flexible database. Now, the way this works is that you typically implement the logic as part of FlutterFlow. But in this case, we already have the logic built in. All we need to do is just give a couple of parameters, and this is going to do exactly that. So for instance, if you want to send an email, you just need to specify the email where you want a specific email to be sent, and it's going to go out and send it. Same thing for things like sending messages with Twilio. I just need to specify a phone number, an actual message, and it's going to go out and send the message. So I don't need to worry about actually building the code. And so if you look at this diagram right here, we have something extra here, and this is Firebase extensions. And all this really does, it replaces this. So instead of doing your logic in an app builder such as FlutterFlow, you're just going to take existing piece of logic and connect it to your app. So a better way of thinking it is that you have a UI which connects directly to the database, and then you have logic that runs in response to changes in your database. So anytime you create a record, update a record, or delete a record, you're going to have logic that's going to run, that's going to update this database back. It's a really great system because it's constantly listening on this database and seeing if there are records that are being created, updated, or deleted that it may be interested in. And as soon as that's the case, it's going to run the logic and then update the result. And the best part of it all is that you can use a builder such as FlutterFlow as the UI. So instead of doing all the logic and things like that, you can simply build a UI in FlutterFlow and then leverage the extensions for all the needed logic. Now that you understand exactly how this works, let's go into extensions and let's take a look at how you can actually leverage it. And so once you've decided what kind of functionality you want to build inside of your app, what you want to do is you want to read the details. So for instance, let's say we have this trigger email extension. I'm going to open this page that tells me a little bit more about this extension. So here it says composes and sends an email based on the contents of a document written to a specific Cloud Firestore collection. And the way you want to think about it is that you're going to have a collection called emails or messages or anything that you want. And you're going to have fields such as to, from, body. And some of these fields you will have to set. Some of these fields are going to be set for you once that action has taken place, as you're going to see in a second. And so as you can see, it says here, you have to fill out a couple of fields. So these fields are to, CC, BCC, and message. And once you do that, it's going to fire up this logic. And in this case, it's going to send an email. And in certain other situations, it may also let you know the status of the email, whether it has been successfully delivered or not, or whether it failed or for whatever reason. And that's going to be stored in another field. So you can load up that data in that field and display it to the user. There's a success, failure, etc., etc. Now, all of this is going to depend on a specific extension. And so here are some extensions that I already installed and configured. So let me quickly show you how I configure them and what exactly these extensions do. And then we're going to go into FlutterFlow and I'm going to show you some prototypes of how you can implement the logic in these extensions to build the kind of app that you want to build. So let's start with shorten URL. So if you click on manage, we can essentially see all the fields that you need in order to kind of configure this extension. So these are the fields I already configured. If I want to change something, I can just click reconfigure extension and I can change any of these fields. Now, what we need here is we need a Bitly token because we're using a third-party service called Bitly, which is a URL shortening service. And so here I am in my Bitly account. I have my access token that I'm using here. This is the access token. I basically generated it. I copied it and I went back here and this is the access token. Next, we need a collection path. And this is going to be a path to a collection of documents that essentially are records of the things that you want to be doing. In this case, we just need to shorten URLs, but it could be something more complex or as part of something else. So we have a URLs, and then we have a couple of fields then. We have URL and we have short URL. So URL is the URL you're going to be inputting. Okay, this is going to be the original URL. And once it shortens it, it's going to go ahead and it's going to modify that same document by giving you the short URL. And so here's my Firestore DB. Here's the collection called URLs. And I have one document, okay? And I have a URL, empty URL here. And so once we input a URL here, it's going to return and it's going to give us the shortened URL. So let me show you how it works. So let's say I edit this field directly in Firestore DB. And I say, okay, news.com, I update it. I'm going to have another field in just a second. And so there we have it. The extension saw that we modified the field. It went out, it ran the logic, it got the shortened URL, and now we have the short URL. And so this can be easily incorporated into your app, whether it's FlutterFlow or pretty much anything else. And so let me go ahead and delete this document. And let's go into FlutterFlow, and I'm going to show you how this works inside of FlutterFlow. And so here I am inside of FlutterFlow, and I went ahead and created this prototype here just to show you how this works. So we have here a page, and we have enter URL, and this is going to be the resulting URL, and we have the submit button. So when we click on the submit button, what it does, it creates a document with the URL specified here. And this thing here, this is going to be the short URL from the same document. But the magic here is that in order to get this data back, we need to pull that data back. I'm coming in here and I'm doing a query where I am filtering for that specific document using the input as the URL. So I'm basically filtering it because let's say we have many URLs there and I don't want to get just any random URL. I want to get the URL I was just working on. I was just shortening moments ago. And so that is how you do it. You basically create the filter and that way it's going to get updated in real time. So let's go ahead and run it and we're going to see how it runs in real time. And here's the app. We need to enter the URL first. So let's say we enter google.com. We press go. It goes out and shortens it and gets back the link, which it displays here. And if we go back to our database, we have a record here. And here's the initial URL and here's the shortened URL. Let's try another example here. Let's say I enter news.com. And here we have the newly shortened URL. And if we go back to our database, we have here two records. One is google.com, another is news.com. The second extension I want to show you is resize images. So I already went ahead and installed it, as you can see. So let's go ahead and look how it's set up. And if we click on how this extension works, you can see that you can upload an image to this bucket, which is a storage bucket. And in a few seconds, the resized image will appear in the same bucket. Now, how do you upload images to a bucket? When it comes to FlutterFlow, FlutterFlow has the functionality where you can upload images and the uploading will happen to your specific bucket. So here I am inside my Firebase storage bucket. And so the idea is anytime you upload an image, it's going to detect that an image has been uploaded and it's going to resize it automatically. So let me show you. So let's say I want to upload a file. I'm going to upload a FlutterFlow logo. It's uploading. And if I refresh this page, I should see another image. And so here we have another image. This was the original image and this is the new image. This is in 400 by 400 pixels. And this one is 200 by 200 pixels. You can also click here and open it up. And this is the final image. And if we click here and open this up, you can see this is the bigger original image. Now let's go back into FlutterFlow and I can show you how you can implement this exact functionality inside of your app. Here's the image picker screen, and right now it's not showing any images because we haven't uploaded anything. But if I click here, I have a gallery. I can click here and I can pick this image. So if I open it up, it's going to upload it, and now we have the two images. In this case, they look the same, but this one is the bigger image and this is the second image. And if we go into my storage bucket, I will show you exactly where the images are stored and where they are resized and processed. So if we refresh the storage bucket, we have the users directory here. If I come in here, I have the uploads, and now I have the two images. So this is the original image. As you can see, this is the bigger original image, and this is the smaller processed image. Now, if we go back to FlutterFlow, this is where the magic happens. So this button here, it triggers a upload photo video, right? So it has an action called upload photo video. Once you do that, once you upload, select the image, it uploads it to the bucket, and then you can display it in this image widget. So this image widget, you can set it from a variable, the path. And what you want to do is you want to pick widget state and do uploaded file URL. You can do that. This is the original image. But because I know that the processed image is going to be appended 200 by 200, it's going to have an underscore, and the number of pixels which we specified in the extension, I can build a custom function that's going to go ahead and display this image, which is exactly what I did here. So if we go back here and we come in here, we have a custom function called processed image URLs. And so here's my very, very simple custom function. All it's doing is it's taking the URL of the original image, which FlutterFlow knows because it uploaded it, and appending the 200 by 200, which is the format that the extension appends to the file name because it resizes it to be 200 by 200 pixels. And so this function takes in the original image path and returns the new image path here. And so this image here is the original image, and this one is the processed image. So what we can do is set from variable, and here I have it set to use this function, set from variable function. We're passing the original URL, and we're getting back the new URL. Obviously, in production, you may need to tweak the code a little bit so that it works with all sizes, but for the purpose of this tutorial, it is absolutely fine. Now, the next extension I want to show you is sending messages with Twilio. So if you click on Manage here, you're going to see all my settings. And these are essentially the settings that I initially set up when I was setting up this extension. And what this extension allows us to do is it allows us to send text messages using a Twilio, which is essentially an SMS gateway. So if you check out Twilio.com, you will see that this is a very, very popular SMS gateway. Pretty much everyone uses it for sending SMS messages, do SMS verification, and stuff like that. Now, if you go back to this extension and you click here, how this extension works, and it's telling us you need to include a to field, which is a phone number where you're sending to. You need to include a message, and you also need to include a from field. And what's nice about this extension is that in a few seconds, you'll see a delivery field appear in the document. The field will update as the extension processes the message. Now, we can test out this extension directly from Firebase by creating a document in our specified collection. In this case, it's messages. I can just add a document, and I'm just going to say to, I'm going to specify a number, and I'm going to do body. Hey, dude. And I'm going to hit save. And now it should trigger the extension. As you can see, it was doing it. It was processing it as we were talking. We see accepted and we see success. So it obviously went through absolutely fine. Now let's go into FlutterFlow and I'll show you how we can do it from FlutterFlow. So here's where we specify the number. Let me go ahead and do that. And here I specify the body. Hey man, from FlutterFlow with love. We're going to say go. And that's going to create the document as we see here. And as you can see, accepted. This is the message we were sending. And if I check my phone, as you can see, I have the message right here. And so if you go back into FlutterFlow, this page is built exactly the same way as that first example. Okay, we have the fields. These are input fields. We have to and body. And then we have the delivery field, which is going to grab that delivery field that Twilio inserted for us through that extension. Remember, now we have a delivery field here. This is that hey man from FlutterFlow with love, but now we have the delivery field. And we have a lot of fields here. We can pull up a specific field. We can display everything. Typically, you probably want to display just the state. The nice thing about it is that all we're doing, inserting data into a specific collection as a document, and it's doing the logic, and then it's sending us back the data that it thinks we are interested in, such as some kind of a status or something of that sort that we can display and show to the user. And so here you have 5 examples that you can implement, and obviously there are more extensions, so depending on your use case, you can try some of the other examples. And I also showed you how you can do that inside of FlutterFlow, how you can build little micro SaaS, micro software as a service that does something, whether it's sending messages with Twilio, resizing image, you can calculate shipping rates, you can process image. In fact, this is a really, really nice extension. It could do a lot of things to images that end users might find interesting. And last but not least, you can also shorten URL. So I really hope you've gotten value in this video. I really hope now you are determined to at least go out and build a micro SaaS. If you are overwhelmed with the idea of building like a full-fledged SaaS app that does a ton of things, that can compete with some of the things that are in the market right now, at least you should have the determination and the motivation to go out and to build something on a smaller scale. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, the app that I built here today is going to be available on my Patreon page. So you can view and clone the specific app that I built here today and change it around, as well as look how it was built and use it for your own purposes and needs. And on my Patreon page, you'll find a lot of content, all the apps that I've built here in FlutterFlow, as well as live streams, Q&As, and I'm also working on a masterclass that's going to be talking about building custom code. So it's going to be a tutorial for beginners when it comes to building custom functions, custom code, that you can essentially glue different parts of your FlutterFlow app. It's also a great way to support the channel and support my work. So I sincerely hope to see you there. And so that is all that I wanted to show you guys today. I really, really hope you've gotten a lot of value here. If you enjoyed this video, smash the like button, leave a comment below. Let me know if you have any questions or concerns, and I will try to help you out. Also, subscribe to the channel, and I will talk to you in a future video.